The security guard blocked his path with a smirk. "Sir, this floor is reserved for VIP guests only." "You must be lost." Marcus Thompson, dressed in his simple jeans and hoodie after a 14-hour flight, stared at the man preventing him from entering his own penthouse suite. What happened next will shock you to your core. Marcus had just landed at Lax after closing the biggest deal of his career, acquiring the Paradise Grand hotel chain for $3.2 billion. At 29, he was now the youngest black billionaire in hospitality. But tonight, he wanted to experience his newest property anonymously to see how his employees really treated guests when they thought no one was watching. The Paradise Grand Beverly Hills gleamed with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Marcus approached the front desk, his designer luggage the only hint of his wealth. The receptionist, Ashley Williams, barely looked up from her phone. "Yeah? What do you need?" she said with obvious irritation. "I have a reservation under Thompson," Marcus said politely. Ashley finally glanced at him, her eyes scanning his casual attire with disgust. "Thompson? I don't think so. This isn't a Motel 6, honey. Maybe check the Holiday Inn down the street." The lobby fell silent. Other guests, all wealthy and white, turned to watch the spectacle. Marcus maintained his composure. "Could you please check your system? The reservation was made 3 days ago." Ashley laughed loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Look, I don't need to check anything. I can see with my own eyes you don't belong here. This is a 5-star establishment with standards." She turned to her colleague, Brian Martinez, the assistant manager. "Call security. This guy's obviously trying to scam his way into a free room." Brian hesitated. Something about Marcus's calm demeanor felt different, but Ashley's glare silenced his doubts. "Right away," he muttered, reaching for his radio. Within minutes, two security guards arrived. The head of security, Derek Johnson, a former cop with 15 years on the force, immediately sized up the situation. The second guard, Tony Reeves, cracked his knuckles theatrically. "Sir, you need to leave immediately," Derek announced. "You're making our guests uncomfortable." Marcus looked around the lobby. The uncomfortable guests were recording on their phones, clearly entertained by what they assumed was free drama. A wealthy woman whispered to her husband, "How did someone like that even get through the door?" "Gentlemen, I understand you're doing your job," Marcus said calmly. "But I have a legitimate reservation. Could we please resolve this professionally?" Tony Reeves stepped forward aggressively. "The only thing we're resolving is getting you out of here. You can leave on your own, or we can help you leave. Your choice." Ashley emerged from behind the desk, her voice dripping with condescension. "This is exactly why we have security protocols. You never know what kind of people will try to infiltrate a luxury property." She gestured dismissively at Marcus. "Look at him. Does he look like he belongs in a $3,000 a night suite?" The gathered crowd murmured their agreement. Phones continued recording as Marcus was surrounded by 3 staff members treating him like a criminal. The humiliation was deliberate, public, and complete. "Sir, we're going to escort you out now," Derek said, reaching for Marcus's arm. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Marcus gently pulled his arm away. "Before you do that, I'd like to show you something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. The security guards tensed, but Marcus simply opened his banking app. "This is my account balance," he said quietly. The numbers on the screen made Derek's face go white. $847 million in available funds. "That's fake," Ashley scoffed, but her voice lacked conviction. "Anyone can Photoshop numbers on a phone." Marcus opened another app, his company's internal system. "This is the Paradise Grand Hotel Chain Employee Database. Would you like to see your own employee file, Ashley?" The color drained from her face as Marcus navigated to her profile. Ashley Williams, hired 18 months ago, currently on probation for guest complaints. 3 written warnings for unprofessional behavior. Brian Martinez stepped closer, recognizing the interface. Only corporate executives had access to the master employee database. "Sir, who are you?" Marcus turned to address the entire lobby, his voice carrying the authority he'd kept hidden. "My name is Marcus Thompson. As of 6 p.m. today, I am the owner and CEO of Paradise Grand Hotels. This property and 247 others now belong to Thompson Hospitality Group. The silence that followed was deafening. Phones stopped recording as guests realized they'd witnessed something historic. Ashley's legs buckled and she grabbed the desk for support. That's impossible, she whispered. Marcus pulled up the acquisition announcement on his phone, showing the Reuters headline, Thompson Hospitality acquires Paradise Grand chain for $3.2 billion. The timestamp showed 6:47 p.m., just 23 minutes ago. Derek Johnson, the head of security, felt his world crumbling. In his 15 years of law enforcement, he learned to read people. And everything about Marcus Thompson screamed legitimate, except his clothes. Sir, we didn't know, Derek stammered. Of course you didn't know, Marcus replied. Because you judged me based on my appearance instead of treating me with basic human dignity. That tells me everything I need to know about this property's culture. Brian Martinez, the assistant manager, tried to salvage the situation. Mr. Thompson, please, we can fix this. It was just a misunderstanding. Marcus shook his head. Brian, there was no misunderstanding. Your colleague Ashley made it crystal clear that people who look like me don't belong here. Your security team was ready to physically remove a paying customer based solely on racial profiling. This wasn't a mistake, it was policy. The wealthy guests who had enjoyed the show began edging toward the exits, suddenly uncomfortable with their complicity. The woman who had whispered about Marcus not belonging tried to delete the video on her phone. Ashley finally found her voice, desperation making her bold. Mr. Thompson, please, I have a family. I can't lose this job, I was just following protocol. What protocol? Marcus asked. Show me the company policy that says to deny service based on a guest's appearance. Show me where it says to humiliate customers in front of an audience. Ashley couldn't answer because no such policy existed in writing. The discrimination was cultural, unspoken, but systematic. Marcus pulled out his phone again, this time calling his head of operations. The call connected through the lobby's sound system. Sarah, I need immediate termination paperwork for the entire front desk and security staff at Paradise Grand Beverly Hills, effective immediately. Sarah Chen's voice came through the speakers. Sir, are you sure? That's 7 employees, I'm sure. Email the paperwork to my phone, I'll handle the notifications personally. Marcus ended the call and looked around the lobby. You wanted to make a spectacle of denying me service. Now you get to be the spectacle of facing consequences. Derek Johnson made one last attempt to keep his job. Mr. Thompson, I was just following orders. I've got 20 years until retirement. Marcus studied the man who had threatened to physically remove him moments earlier. Derek, in your 15 years as a police officer, did you ever arrest someone for being black in a public place? Because that's essentially what you were about to do here. The question hung in the air as Derek realized the parallel. His shoulders slumped in defeat. Ashley tried a different approach. This is discrimination against us. You can't fire people for one incident. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Ashley, you literally just discriminated against your new boss on camera in front of witnesses. And now you're claiming discrimination because you're facing consequences. The irony is breathtaking. Brian Martinez, who had stayed quiet, finally spoke up. Mr. Thompson, I tried to suggest we check the reservation system. I knew something was wrong. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Brian, you're right? You did try to de-escalate, but you also called security when Ashley told you to. You had a choice to do the right thing, and you chose to follow orders instead of your instincts. The termination paperwork arrived on Marcus's phone with a chime that echoed through the silent lobby. He began reading names aloud. Ashley Williams, Brian Martinez, Derek Johnson, Tony Reeves, Patricia Sanders, Michael Kim, and Jennifer Lopez as of 11:47 p.m. Your employment with Paradise Grand Hotels is terminated for violation of company anti-discrimination policies and failure to provide adequate customer service. The 7 employees stood in stunned silence as their careers in luxury hospitality ended simultaneously. Word would spread quickly through the industry. Finding new jobs would be nearly impossible after being fired for racial discrimination. Marcus wasn't finished. Security footage from tonight will be reviewed by our legal department. Any criminal charges for attempted battery, false imprisonment, or civil rights violations will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Tony Reeves, who had threatened physical force, went pale. The bravado that had carried him through the confrontation evaporated as he realized the legal implications of his actions. Marcus addressed the remaining staff, who had watched the entire incident unfold. To everyone else working tonight, you witnessed systematic discrimination and said nothing. You watched your colleagues humiliate a guest and offered no intervention. That makes you complicit. A housekeeper who had been watching from the elevator bank stepped forward. Sir, we wanted to help, but we were scared. Ashley writes up anyone who questions her authority. Marcus nodded with understanding. What's your name? Rosa Hernandez, sir. I've worked here for 8 years. Rosa, thank you for speaking up. That took courage. Marcus turned to address all the remaining staff. Tomorrow morning, we're implementing immediate changes. New management, comprehensive anti-discrimination training, and a zero-tolerance policy for prejudice in any form. The wealthy guests who had remained to witness the confrontation began approaching Marcus, suddenly eager to associate with a newly revealed billionaire. The same people who had enjoyed his humiliation now wanted selfies and networking opportunities. Marcus ignored their attempts at engagement. Instead, he walked to the elevator bank where Rosa stood with 3 other minority employees who had witnessed their colleagues' behavior. Rosa, I'm promoting you to interim front desk manager, Marcus announced. Miguel, you're now head of security. Carmen, you're assistant general manager. And David, you're our new guest services director. The 4 employees stared in shock as their lives changed in real time. Years of being overlooked and undervalued suddenly reversed in a moment of justice. Sir, we don't have management experience, Miguel protested. You have something more valuable, Marcus replied, integrity. I'd rather train good people to manage than manage bad people to be good. Ashley Williams, still processing her termination, made one final mistake. This is insane. You can't run a business based on feelings. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions about clientele. Marcus turned to face her directly. Ashley, you're right about tough decisions. Tonight, I made the tough decision to fire 7 employees rather than allow systematic racism to continue poisoning my business. That decision will save this company millions in lawsuits, improve our reputation, and create a workplace where everyone feels valued. Derek Johnson, the former head of security, tried to leave quietly, but Marcus called out to him. Derek, before you go, I want you to understand something. You spent 15 years as a police officer, supposedly protecting and serving the community. Tonight, you were ready to physically assault an innocent man because he didn't look like what you thought wealth should look like. Think about how many other people you might have misjudged. The former cop stopped at the door, Marcus's words hitting him like physical blows. His entire worldview was crumbling as he realized his prejudices had cost him everything. As the terminated employees filed out of the lobby, Marcus called his operations team to begin immediate damage control. Social media was already buzzing with footage from the incident. #ParadiseAgrandJusty was trending as witnesses posted videos of the confrontation and its aftermath. Sarah, I need a press release prepared, Marcus said into his phone. We're taking responsibility for what happened tonight and announcing comprehensive reforms across all properties. This incident will not be repeated anywhere in our organization. Sarah's voice came through the speakers again. Sir, the stock market is reacting positively to the acquisition news and your handling of the situation. Investors see decisive leadership and social responsibility as valuable assets. Marcus wasn't interested in stock prices at that moment. He was focused on the 4 newly promoted employees who were still processing their elevation from overlooked workers to management team. Rosa, I need you to work with our HR department to review every discrimination complaint filed at this property in the past 5 years. Anyone who was mistreated deserves an apology and compensation, Rosa nodded enthusiastically. Sir, there have been many complaints that were just ignored or buried. Staff members who spoke up were usually punished. Not anymore, Marcus assured her. Tomorrow, we start rebuilding this property's culture from the ground up. The remaining guests in the lobby watched in fascination as a masterclass in leadership unfolded before their eyes. Marcus Thompson had turned a moment of personal humiliation into an opportunity for systematic change. As the immediate crisis settled, Marcus finally addressed his original purpose for being there. Rosa, I believe I have a reservation for the penthouse suite. Could you please check me in? Rosa smiled broadly as she typed into the computer system. Of course, Mr. Thompson. Welcome to Paradise Grand Beverly Hills. We're honored to have you as our guest and our leader. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who had been denied basic service an hour ago was now checking into the penthouse suite of the hotel he owned. The staff member who had been overlooked for years was now running the front desk with dignity and professionalism. Marcus took the key cards from Rosa and turned to address the remaining people in the lobby one final time. Tonight, everyone here learned an important lesson about assumptions and consequences. The 7 people who lost their jobs tonight didn't lose them because of one mistake. They lost them because of a pattern of behavior that my company will not tolerate. He paused at the elevator, looking back at the lobby where his humiliation had become transformation. Tomorrow, Paradise Grand Beverly Hills begins a new chapter. One where every guest is treated with respect, regardless of how they look or where they come from. One where employees are valued for their character, not their connections. And one where discrimination in any form results in immediate termination. As the elevator doors closed, Marcus reflected on the evening's events. The personal pain of racism had been transformed into systematic change that would benefit thousands of future guests and employees. Ashley Williams had inadvertently triggered the most comprehensive hospitality reform in the company's history. The next morning brought a media frenzy. News outlets picked up the story of the billionaire CEO who had been racially profiled at his own hotel. The footage from guests' phones went viral, sparking national conversations about discrimination in luxury hospitality. Ashley Williams woke up to find her face on the front page of the Los Angeles Times under the headline "Former Hotel Employee Fires Self by Discriminating Against New Boss." Her racism had made her infamous nationwide. Derek Johnson discovered that his law enforcement pension was being reviewed after video emerged of him threatening to physically remove an innocent man from a hotel lobby. 20 years of service couldn't protect him from the consequences of one night's prejudice. Brian Martinez, the assistant manager who had just followed orders, found himself unemployable in hospitality management. His LinkedIn profile became a case study in the costs of moral cowardice. Meanwhile, Rosa Hernandez was featured in Forbes magazine as an example of how crisis can create opportunity. Her promotion from housekeeper to front desk manager became an inspiration story shared thousands of times on social media. Marcus Thompson used the incident to launch a nationwide initiative called Dignity in Hospitality. Within 6 months, Paradise Grand Hotels became the industry leader in diversity training and inclusive customer service. Revenue increased by 34% as the company attracted guests who had previously avoided luxury hotels due to discrimination concerns. The penthouse suite where Marcus finally stayed that night became a symbol of transformation. He converted it into a training center where hospitality workers learn that respect isn't a luxury amenity, it's a basic human right that every guest deserves. Ashley Williams never worked in hospitality again. Her name became synonymous with workplace racism, a cautionary tale told in HR training sessions across multiple industries. She spent the following years working retail jobs while battling lawsuits from previous discrimination victims who finally felt empowered to speak up. Derek Johnson's attempt to find security work was hampered by the viral video of his threatened assault on Marcus Thompson. The footage had been viewed over 15 million times, making him recognizable to potential employers who wanted no association with his actions. But the story's true impact extended far beyond individual consequences. Marcus Thompson had demonstrated that accountability for discrimination could be swift, decisive, and transformative. Other hotel chains rushed to implement similar reforms, terrified of becoming the next viral example of systemic racism. 6 months later, Marcus returned to Paradise Grand Beverly Hills for the property's reopening celebration. The same marble lobby where he had been humiliated now displayed awards for diversity excellence and customer service innovation. Rosa Hernandez, now the general manager, greeted him at the entrance with genuine warmth and professional pride. "Welcome back, Mr. Thompson. Your usual suite is ready." The transformation was complete. The hotel that had denied him service based on racial prejudice now stood as an industry model for inclusive excellence. Marcus Thompson had turned one night of discrimination into a lifetime of systematic change. As he walked through the lobby, Marcus noticed the diverse staff working comfortably with guests of all backgrounds. The culture shift was real, sustainable, and profitable. Dignity, it turned out, was excellent for business. The final piece of the transformation came when Ashley Williams, desperate for work and facing financial ruin, applied for a minimum wage position at a Paradise Grand property in Las Vegas. Her application was automatically flagged by the system Marcus had implemented to prevent discriminatory employees from being rehired anywhere in the organization. The rejection letter was simple and devastating. Paradise Grand Hotels maintains a commitment to inclusive hospitality. Your employment history indicates values incompatible with our organizational culture. Ashley Williams had been permanently banned from the industry she had tried to protect through racism. Her discrimination against Marcus Thompson had become her own professional death sentence. Marcus Thompson's story became required reading in business schools, a masterclass in leadership under pressure and the power of consequences to create change. The night he was denied hotel service became the night he revolutionized an entire industry. The lesson was clear. Dignity denied to anyone diminishes dignity for everyone. But courage to confront injustice transforms systems for the benefit of all. And sometimes the person you discriminate against turns out to be the person who holds your future in their hands. Ashley Williams learned that lesson too late, but millions of others learned it just in time to make better choices. The Paradise Grand Beverly Hills incident proved that racism isn't just morally wrong, it's a business disaster waiting to happen. In an age of viral accountability, discrimination becomes career suicide for anyone foolish enough to practice it publicly. Marcus Thompson had turned his worst night into his greatest victory, proving that sometimes the best revenge is systematic justice that prevents others from experiencing the same humiliation. The hotel industry would never be the same. And that was exactly what Marcus Thompson had intended.